In the name I am that I am, son of tomorrow, I call forth the light of the living word, beloved Elohim, beloved archangels, beloved mighty Choans of the rays and the lords of karma. I call for the action of beloved Pallas Athena, beloved goddess of liberty, beloved Nada, beloved Kuan Yin, beloved Portia, beloved great divine director, beloved all-seeing eye of God, Cyclopeia. Let God's will be done, let God's will be done, let God's will be done. I do in the action of the sacred fire in this hour, descend on mighty cosmos, secret rays. I am the holding of the balance of Lord Gautama Buddha, beloved Sana Kumara and the seven holy Kumaras. I call upon the sacred fire, I call upon the light of God that never fails. Beloved mighty, I am present, come forth in this hour of the victory. Come forth in this hour of the victory of the God flame. I demand the full power of beloved mighty Athene with us this night. Beloved Jesus and Kusumi, Lord mighty, Gautama and Sana Kumara. Come Lord now in the victory of the God flame. Cleanse the light of 10,000 suns. Beloved mighty Athene, mighty Athene, mighty Athene. Around this fortune now. I call upon the great single sun magnet. I call upon the light of God that never fails. Beloved Astrea, beloved Astrea, beloved Astrea. I call upon the electronic solar rings of the great central sun, the seraphim of God. I call for the electronic fire rings. I call for the rings of the great central sun. I call for the great central sun magnet and the full power of the...
And as Elizabeth Clare Prophet fades into infinity, I welcome you to another edition of Navigating the Astrological Matrix. The date is 10/10/12. We are entering into a very interesting sequence of dates here, 10/10/12, 10/11/12, and 10/12/12. 10/11/12, by the way, adds up to 33. It is the night of the second of the scheduled debates, this one between Joe Biden and Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan seemingly have the astrological advantage with his Sun and Mercury in Aquarius. Biden will have a significant disadvantage as Saturn at 0 degrees will be opposing his Moon in Taurus at 0 degrees. And if you've looked at Biden's chart, he is a Scorpio rising. However, the majority of his 12th house is Scorpio, so Saturn is beginning to show up there in his 12th house. It's going to be a rough transit for Mr. Biden, and I expect he's got a reputation for having extremely loose lips, which is not indicative of being a Scorpio, by the way. Scorpios tend to be fairly tight-lipped and secretive. Biden, however, cuts against the grain with that. So it's going to be a very interesting debate tomorrow night. We'll see how that goes. Scorpio, Aquarius, of course, square each other, two fixed signs. And, yeah, let's see them go at it. Speaking of Scorpio, I have a treat today. I got a great guest coming up for everybody. I discovered him through Sister Myra, who was a guest on the show in one of the classic Navigating the Astrological Matrix episodes. It was me and Sister Myra breaking down the Super Bowl and the halftime ritual with Madonna. It was a great show. And as a result of that, a whole series of pretty cool relationships have evolved out of that. And one of them is with my guest today. His name is RaAkhu, the cosmophysician. He is the man. He's all over Facebook. He is breaking down astrology as a sacred science every single day. The man goes to work. And I wanted to get him on here because, A, I wanted to find out more about him. B, I totally admire his work ethic. C, he is just a damn good astrologer. And D, he's a Scorpio. So who better to talk about this Saturn and Scorpio with a member of the tribe, the Scorpionic tribe. Man, we've got a lot of people online today waiting to get in. Woo! All right, here's what's going to happen. Let me break this down. I'm going to bring Ra on. I'm going to introduce him. We're going to talk about him a little bit. We're going to get him to open up that Scorpionic vault, find out a little bit more about the man. We're going to get into this Saturn and Scorpio thing. And if he's cool, if he's down with it, We'll do a few readings. So we're gonna run it like that, and then we'll just see how it all goes. All right. So without any further delay, let me bring him on. He put the sting in Scorpio. His name is RaAkhu, the cosmophysician. What's going on, Ra?
Peace. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing great, and I'm absolutely psyched to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I was surprised, and not surprised all the time. It's just synchronicity is something else. I was just, the last 2 days I've been charting Saturn through Scorpio degree by degree, and so making the Saturn calendar.
Mm-hmm.
For my number line, because it all locks together very well.
Right. Yes, I've been wanting to do something with you for a while, and I just thought, this is the day, because now we're in Saturn and Scorpio, and I thought, you're the guy to break it down, because A, you are a Scorpio, and you come at astrology from a level of real depth and focus and purpose. So I thought this is a good way to kick this off. What I wanted to do, Ra, is just find out a little bit more about you and give people an idea as to your background, where you're coming from. One of the things I love to ask astrologers when they come on the show is how they got into astrology. And I want to just throw that out there to you and find out how you got turned on to it, when you got turned on to it, and when was that moment where you said to yourself, it really clicks, there's something going on here. I gotta go further with this.
Okay, I was in the 5th grade, so I was 9 or 10 years old. I think it was the summer. I was 9 years old, right before I turned 10. My grandmother had me to read this book. She had me to sit down and read to her and with her. And the book was an astrology book, and it dealt strictly with the sign of Aries, but in the beginning they gave the basics for every sign and a break each personality type. And I understood it, but I understood the words. I could read, basically, but I really didn't understand her purpose for producing it to me. But I every Christmas and birthdays, she would always give me different types of books to read, and sometimes astrology books composed. Mom bought the toys and the clothes, and Grandma bought the art supplies and the science books and the history books and stuff like that. Yeah, so I grew up with it in my family to that extent too. So I didn't, I started playing with it as a teenager. I didn't take it seriously. That ha-ha moment you're referring to is when I started dabbling into predictive astrology and the secondary progressions in particularly.
Mm-hmm.
And different formulas for it, because there are different systems and methodology, And so when I made some accidental predictions for people. You understand? Not intentionally. I said, you got these 2 planets aligning on this day, supposedly, and they were friends or family. And that came about at about the age of 22. So I started taking it real seriously then. And I didn't start doing it professionally until at the age of 33, 34.
Right.
I'm 46 now.
Mm-hmm.
Be 47 this year, shortly.
Right.
Quite shortly.
Right. Yeah.
Quite shortly.
Yeah. So you get into it gradually. At 22, you start just with kind of a basic knowledge, throwing stuff out. Now, being a Scorpio, you're naturally psychic anyway. So you're bringing the psychic element to the astrological element, which is probably helping you get over a little bit on that predictive side, taking those leaps. What was it like for you in that environment? You grew up in New York, didn't you? Is that right?
I grew up in Washington, D.C. from the age of 15 I didn't leave D.C. till the age of 45.
Okay.
I was born in upstate New York.
So what was it like for you to kind of get into astrology and, start busting some of this stuff out with your boys? Did they say you're full of shit?
Yo, that's precise, man. My very best one of my very best friends or longest time friends, right? He wow. He just thought in the beginning that I was just really pulling his leg, and he was like, "Man, are you serious?" But see, he has never known a time where I didn't have a book, because every now and then I would buy a new book on it, and for years, I thought that the time of the birth on the birth certificate, the time recorded, was right and exact. So I had to struggle with learning the rectification process on my own chart and then everyone else's. Mm-hmm. And really what it was is I just didn't believe that it could be true. I wasn't willing to accept the fact that planets millions of miles away could indicate anything. Yeah. Or could cause anything. And I still, to this day, I don't believe that they are the cause of anything. I think that they're just indicators. Right. We're using a watch that is 360 degrees, in circumference. And, and we have 10 hands, and depending on how many other calculated points, asteroids or bodies you use in your reading or synthesize into your reading will determine how many hands on the clock you have. And, planetary geometry is law. It's natural law. Mm-hmm. So aspects aren't hard to read. Right. And, it's all synthesized into a system. And, cosmophysics is unique to the actual approach because we look for the physical verifiers regardless of the time of birth, and we will align the chart to the physical verifiers. And then to a process of rectification, bring it to I'm talking about scars and illnesses and healing processes, not just events. And they have to coincide with the events, too. Right. So it's really genetical, but it applies to the mundane and every other aspect. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you have a pretty respected reputation for is this whole notion of rectification. I've talked to Kair a little bit about this, and he says that you're the guy if you want to get a chart rectified. You're the source. He goes, by the way, if you're on Facebook, you should check out Ra's Facebook page. It's not just a page. I mean, there's a lot of astrological tips and insight, and he's breaking down a lot of really meaningful information in terms of the science of astrology. It looks like you're completely filled up with friends there, but you can still go to his page and you can watch what's happening there and take part in a lot of the stuff that he's bringing forward. What was that moment for you? Really, the moment where you just said, "Damn, this is some hot shit. I gotta focus on this and make this a life work."
Well, I was an artist. Okay, I went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C. And when you talk about the psychic nature, I'm more of a mentalist. I like to think of it in terms of my imagination. Mm-hmm. I can visualize, knowing the client or knowing the environment of the client enables me to apply the keyword to the planet to his or her situation. It's like if someone calls me asking about their financial situation and the ruler natally, I call the dispositors and I use the exaltations like dispositors too. Right. And I synthesize a solar application, the second house of this planet or whatever they're asking, So right. Pardon me. So I line it according to basic rules. It's really fundamentals. Mm-hmm. I've just taken the fundamentals really far. I mean, there's some really complex systems of astrology out there, like the Vedantic application of dashes and bhuktis, sub-dashes, sub-bhuktis, 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 and things all the way down to, I just try to keep it mathematical and logical, and then as simple as you can with the keywords, Mm-hmm. And this these basics can't be, fundamentals can't be overemphasized really, because I think the difference between an astrologer and a cosmophysician nowadays, see, I came up with that coin to make a distinction, is that we done got so deep into the technological application of it, the software, and then there are very few astrologers that can actually estimate from experience the trail Saturn through your chart, or read them generational planets and personalize them,
right.
And they trivialize. So we focus on, there are actual events, man, like Mars is iron and steel. It is custom and blood. And it is burns, it's fire, right? Fever and inflammation. So where it is, we use medical astrology to determine, the actuality of the chart. And from there, we apply the mathematical ratio for progression, and we use the basic rule of progression. 1 day equals 1 year. But it's a moving progress. It's not a stagnant 1 degree per year. It's 361 degrees approximately per year that the chart revolves. Planets hit angles and it's curtains. So in the rectification process, it is required that you line up the planetary event to the angle pertinent to the event. I mean, it's a really simple law. I mean, everybody that's been doing this for years knows it. But some people would like to, for the sake of idealism or for the sake of their interpretation, they misperceive their ascendant, and they don't stress the degree of the ascendant. They're looking at the rising sign, and they put emphasis on houses, which does not require, because it depends on the system of houses you're using, and then not the actual place of a harmonic vibration. So, it just goes into so many different variables. But the rectification process we seek to do by physical marking, by injuries, scars, burns, and these things that are most evident and memorable. And from there we sprout out, And I have a success rate with it. I would like to say, 98% when we actually get to the nitty-gritty of applying the mathematics of the progressions. We use all of them, P1, P2, 3, and 4. In other words, primary directions. With solar arc, we use a secondary progression, tertiary, and minor, and depending upon the scenario, it will determine how deep into whichever mathematical system works, because different people vibe on different levels. So some people, the tertiary is stronger than the secondary, and vice versa with the minor. It's all transcriptable,
Right. Good stuff, man. Getting deep into the art and science of rectification. What is it with grandmothers? Sort of picking up on these latent talents. My grandmother always used to tell me that she thought that I should be an astrologer and that I should have my own radio show. And this was back when I was in my early and mid-20s. Nobody else in my family thought that or saw that. And here you have your grandmother giving you the astrology book and the art book.
Okay, I'm going to show you. What I think that comes directly from, because I consider that specifically, that thought, man. So in ancient Egypt, they had a egalitarian system of government. It wasn't the monarchy like portrayed in Hollywood or in the movies or in a lot of the history books or the religious books that they got out there.
Right.
All right. And the Queen Mother, who was Pharaoh's mother, selected the Pharaoh. And the line of Pharaoh went from uncle to nephew. And thus, eventually, this is where the interbreeding came. The intermarriage, interfamily marriage, whatever they call that.
Right.
Ancestral marriages and stuff. So then, so when you look at that, and then I looked myself at the trail of characteristics of talents and features, or high features in my family. You understand? And it seems to follow that same pattern. I wonder, I believe the ancients, I'm convinced that the ancients followed that same natural code of law. The grandmother recognizes really, who, if that child is the parent's, seed or not. Daddy's baby, mama's baby, daddy's maybe thing.
Right.
The grandmother could always tell. The grandma can always tell.
Yeah.
So, and that human nature, it reverberates all the way down, even down to the karmic aspect of it, because when I look at a chart, I apply the fourth house to my maternal grandmother, and the place of the moon, of course. But the 12th place describes the grandparents overall, all four of them.
Mm-hmm.
You see? Mm-hmm. And very well for me. So when you say what is this thing about grandparents, I think it has much to do with one's karma or one's debt to God and humanity, and what is developed through the subconscious. The 4th, the 12th, and the 8th have a real close relationship anyway by the trining.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fascinating for me. My grandmother was a Taurus. I think she was like a triple Taurus. So she would have shown up in my second house. And conversely, my grandfather, I never knew. He died before I met him. But my step-grandfather, he and I had a very strong relationship. And it was, even though it was not biological, it could have easily been biological. He was kind of a Midwestern guy.
What's your second?
My second's Taurus. I'm sorry, Capricorn. My Capricorn. My second is Capricorn. So I apologize.
Your ascendant degree is Cap?
No. My ascendant degree is Scorpio. So my grandmother would have shown up in my.
I use the equal house, right? I use the equal house.
I don't use equal house. So if it's equal house, then it would probably be Sagittarius for using equal house, because my ascendant's 28 degrees Scorpio.
Yeah. Your ascendant's 28.
Yeah.
That's my Mercury degree by 1 degree. Okay. So here we are on the phone. We got
Absolutely.
Indeed. Wow. Look at the whole thing play out.
So anyway, my sixth house. She showed up on my sixth, seventh house. So there you go. Vocation. But my grandfather my step grandfather was a Leo. And his son, his biological son, was not somebody that he was really all that into. He wound up becoming gay. He grew cactus gardens. My step-grandfather was very into sports. So he and I would go to baseball games. We'd go to football games. He would come to my baseball games. And here we have a very interesting, another interesting question for you would be these relationships that would almost feel biological, even though they're not. Like extended cosmic parents or extended cosmic grandparents. What's your take on that?
I notice how every woman has a menstrual cycle that is mathematically calculable, and that no child can be born of her outside of her own cycle. And there is the genetic trait that they want to put on it. And therefore, I also notice that people born with harsh aspect between two planets, that this generationally manifests itself even through their children. Like one woman who's a client of mine and a very close friend, she, all three of her children have a harsh Mars-Neptune aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 2 of them are square, 1 of them in opposition. And it's very tight, And then their father had the same thing, she said, when we looked at their chart. So, you are born of your parents' generation, and thus, and therefore, you're going to find that mark. And then you could take it to a spiritual or cosmic, as a real, interpretation and application. It's all the same thing. It's about scheduling to me.
Yeah.
It's all about scheduling. Yeah, really. That's the truest, most applicable form of it is in mapping your seasons and plotting your life out according to those, as opposed to your whim, thinking that by mere imagination you can attain, let's say a Saturn investment. You want to invest in, some hardware or some computer hardware technology,
mm-hmm.
right? And Saturn squares Jupiter natally. So this person here takes risks and loses much frequently anyway. They've had to learn some harsh lessons with that.
Right.
even though Jupiter may be there to catch them in that square. They still have to juggle with Saturn. So you understand the nature of this relationship, and then they want to make this investment now while these two planets are conjunct? No, man. Wouldn't do that. Right. Wouldn't recommend it, you know what I'm saying? Wouldn't recommend it, not until that phase went away then, you know, because it's a timing. It's a mix of electional, you know, and it's so many. Every technique that I ever studied gets the once over in a reading until the time is up. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, speaking of timing, Saturn has just moved into Scorpio, and like clockwork, I've ticked off at least 4 events that have really just popped in the opening degree of Saturn and Scorpio. The first is what's going on in England with this guy Jimmy Savile, who is a DJ. He's like the Alan Freed, the Dick Clark of England, and you know he is connected to everybody. He's connected to Paul McCartney. He's connected to the British House of Parliament, you name it. Jimmy Savile does handshakes with all of them, and he's got over 100 counts now, or 100 people have come forward and talked about him molesting them. And he's been knighted, by the way, and this happens right at the beginning of Saturn and Scorpio. Here, just in my own backyard, there was a middle school teacher who wound up getting, I talked about this on the show on Monday, he wound up getting pulled out of school and arrested because there was a girl who had moved on from the middle school who said that he had molested her. The cops went in, arrested him, pulled him out of school. He had grown up in the area, played baseball in the area, was teaching in the area. He was a hometown boy.
Hold on a second. Hold on one second.
I got one more thing to this.
That's Mars and Saturn, man. That's Mars and Saturn and Scorpio together right there before Mars ousted in the Sag. But go ahead.
I got one more piece of this. He winds up, you know, they've got the Albany Patch, which is this online little newspaper. He winds up killing himself. Okay, so now you've got a teacher that has been he's been arrested, has not been arraigned, has not gone to trial. Nothing has really happened except in the court of social media opinion, and then he offs himself. Now we've got Sandusky being sentenced. This is another Saturn and Scorpio moment. Then you've got let's see, the young woman.
There's a mutual reception. This is all Pluto and Capricorn
absolutely,
too.
Absolutely. But it really, it burst. It was like a sieve that burst as soon as Saturn moved into Scorpio. And I just think we're just beginning to see the beginning of this kind of stuff. And I went back in time, and I went back to 1982 when Saturn was just getting into Scorpio. And one of the key events, and you're gonna get into this. One of the key events that happened very early on at 0 degrees was that Wayne Williams was convicted of the killing of 2 men, but Wayne Williams was connected to close to 40 disappearances and deaths of children under the age of 14 in Atlanta. Whether or not he did them or not is I don't know. I don't have enough information on the Williams case. But that happened right at the beginning of Saturn and Scorpio. That was in 1982, and it went off like a gun, just like it's going off right now. So I'm just kind of setting the stage here, because what I'd love to do with you is get into the social ramifications of what we're about to experience for the next 2.5 years.
Okay, I see. You know, it's more than 2.5 years, right?
Right. It's a rough estimate. Yeah.
18 days short of 3 years.
Okay.
September 17th, 2015, it finally goes back into. It leaves Scorpio the first time, in 2014, goes into Sag, and then it goes retro back into Scorpio. Finally leaves Scorpio September 17th. Mm-hmm. And that's your first ascendant is involved in all that. December 6th. July the 3rd and August the 2nd is when Saturn touches your ascendant, is in your ascendant degree. And he stays there to the 15th of December. All right? And, I mapped it out already for every individual. What I understand about Saturn, to me, the first thing that jumped out was the death sentence. all right, or a penalty that goes along with death, all right, or a disappointment and a great loss dealing with death. Because, I jumped straight to the worst. What could this, what tragedy could this, and what would hit the news? Because the most tragic stories become the biggest. So as an astrologer, you're gonna key into that frequency if you want to make a prediction and get any acclaim or recognition, which is also Saturn, for that matter, right? But you know how Saturn livened up upon ingress. That's ingression. Simple, plain and basic and simple. You drop a radio in one end of the swimming pool, and everybody's in for a shock. All right? So when Saturn enters Scorpio, all of Scorpio is lit up by it. But as he makes aspects to your natal planets is when it is most personally important for you to be on your A game, dealing with those things that Saturn is indicative of. Right. And depending on that aspect, it should determine the course of action that you respond with, or that you brace yourself for. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So, Scorpio, you have to get into what Scorpio means and what Saturn also means, these principles and how they enmesh. Zimmerman, okay? The Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin murder.
That's right. Yep.
Zimmerman has Scorpio, has Saturn and Scorpio, and on November the 9th, he'll have his Saturn return,
Right.
Yeah. And this is, all intrinsic to his case. I looked at the synastry between these two gentlemen.
Right.
And there were so many trines in their synastry chart. It's ridiculous. But I focused a lot on Saturn and Scorpio because what it was really is, natally, Zimmerman has Pluto in Libra.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you know that when Saturn runs over Pluto, it echoes what's going on in the natal chart in Scorpio. So a lot of people have been experiencing this by virtue of the Pluto square in Capricorn. This essence, this smell, this odor has been around for a while. Now it's being amplified by Saturn, moving into Scorpio. And you have to look at the transformative processes in the structure, in the order of things, and in the authority structure, taxation or system of other people's property, loans, and economically on that level is going to really hit us societally. Incorporation and the power structures and power struggles in corporations, mergers gone wrong on one end is, merger Scorpio, gone wrong with Saturn on one end, and then, merger Scorpio stabilizing. Depending on which corporation had planets trining or squaring this, the time that they come about this opportunity to merge or, suffer from it. You think what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I look at it like that, but I more than anything am not concerned with the broadest applications because I can't read for the society, and teach. And then, I'm into RaAkhu, teaching people how to get through their emotional phases and showing them what planets are opportune for money and looking at the relationships that they have, analyzing it through synastry, compositry, using midpoints and all that. So I don't really see much of it unless I'm asked to look into it, like, on a political scale when people talk about it, right? So, on occasion, I still apply the same rules to a society, like when in Egypt last year, when Egypt revolted. Campion is said that, gives this country a Gemini rising. And, but the system that I use is progression requires that I rectify that chart and move it back to 44 degrees, which was approximately 11 minutes and some seconds, right? To make sure that Uranus was angular at the event, because it was 11 degrees from the 7th angle. And to rebellion against the government is Uranus on the descendant, to me, all day long.
Right.
The government being 7, Uranus being the people revolting. So I rectified it. From that point, I was able to predict accurately 5 more events in the course of that summer. But that's not my forte, dealing with mundane. But it is different with the personal aspects of one's life, and therefore where they personally had planets at which degree, and I calculate that, schedule that, and then I put the subchart, primary progression, secondary progressions, and if need be, if it needs to go any deeper, I will apply tertiary or minor progression to it. Basics, classical stuff, right? But the system that I use actually for calculation is different. Because I have to tweak it to work for me over the years. So yeah. I mean, everybody, some people prefer Krishnamurti to Lahiri or Egan Burley for, So I look at it that way. Saturn is difficulties and it is debts. So people who have Scorpio in their chart in a financial place are going to really be feeling it financially. But people who have it in the place of love or in the personal houses, then when or in the ninth house, you know what I'm saying? There's an advancement, and what normally comes natural to them is now going to be a challenge or a means which to stabilize this situation. It depends. Coming this summer, there's going to be a grand water trine between Jupiter, Saturn, and the Sun. I was born with those in grand trine.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturn is always assisted. My Saturn phases will always find relief with Jupiter because in my natal promise there's a trine, and the Sun particularly. So I know to look for those seasons, and such I apply the same principles to an individual's chart. So it deals with a lot of calculation too, Saturn.
Yeah.
Saturn deals with mathematics and structure. So because of the people who use that science or that tool, mathematics per se, as a means of livelihood, and are going through a whole new revolution.
Yeah, indeed. Speaking of revolution, the election, the general election occurs on the 6th of November 2012. Mercury just going retrograde the night of the election, right? And 4 degrees Sagittarius. What's your take on that? What do you have you looked at that chart for that night?
Okay, not like that. This is how I look at that chart because I've been studying Obama since he became a noisemaker, and I was living in D.C. when his whole campaign began and stuff. And I've been following him, and I've rectified his chart to one that is entirely. I've not seen it anywhere else. Okay.
What do you have? What do you have his ascendant as?
Well, I did it for Washington D.C. I didn't do it in his hometown, first of all.
Okay.
Okay. And so therefore, he's a 29-degree Gemini rising. Is how I got him.
Okay.
Right. And I use these events to rectify his chart. So for anyone who I think it's quite orthodox, the method and approach. However, the result is not what you see on the internet and not what you see on his birth certificate.
Right.
I got 1:55 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I don't need to get into the seconds. Now you can do that.
That's okay.
Right, I gotta give away my own recipe. But anyway, I didn't confirm it until after his victory because he has Jupiter and Saturn by secondary close range, but then the Sun was perfectly to the minute trying Jupiter at a specific point in that progress. So I said, and Jupiter was conjunct the 4th, the I-ching in D.C., which means that he would relocate to Washington, right?
Right. Makes sense, yeah.
And the Sun trining it perfectly. So I got my formula progression, right? You can reverse engineer that if you want, right? Now, but I was reluctant to speak on it because just less than 2 degrees in front of that Jupiter conjunct the I-ching was Saturn conjunct the I-ching.
Right.
So I said to myself that's a 2-day gap, and if I'm 8 minutes off of his birth time, then Saturn will be his loss, and if I'm correct on his birth time, then Jupiter will be his win. And so after that, he won. Mm-hmm. And I still had to tweak it about 45 seconds to get it perfect to the minute Jupiter there, right? Mm-hmm. So, and the event that I used to rectify before then was he took a trip out of the country shortly before his birthday.
Right.
a few days after, or a few days before his birthday, he went to Africa, and then he came back, and that aligned to an angular event, the 7th, Jupiter on the 7th cusp.
Interesting.
I use that as the first gauge, right? And he went on around the world at that point, meeting heads of state, Jupiter on the 7th, traveling, meeting government officials. So I use that as a means to rectify the 1:55 a.m. time.
Right.
Which, so by the way, this is only 4 years later. That chart is only like 4 degrees removed, all right, in terms of the planet. Though the moon has moved like 42 degrees. So I have to look at that. I haven't looked at the election per se, but based upon past, Jupiter is going to be very close to the i-ching again. Okay, so I haven't looked at Romney. I haven't rectified Romney's. I haven't taken into consideration the experience, and I have not made the same application with Romney's chart that I have with Obama's chart. For all intents and purposes, it looks very good for Obama. You see what I'm saying? 42, 45 degrees is like almost a sextile.
That's right.
Depending on their placement in the sign. Depending on what signs it's in. So so that right there already shows, and then this, I really believe it's a farce anyway. It's fallacious to think that the elections are what determine who presidents are.
Absolutely.
If you really want to get real, so you can only answer questions cosmophysically that are true anyway.
Well, I'm talking about the election as a process, though. I'm not necessarily talking about.
He killed Obama. And you know, I mean, not Obama. What's the guy's name? What was his name?
Bin Laden.
Bin Laden, right? Obama killed Bin Laden, man. They're gonna play that. They're gonna run it. He's gonna win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get the sense that, you know, with Sagittarius, theoretically, the sign of truth and honesty, that we're going to have a major voting malfunction. I think it's going to be a meltdown in terms of the vote tabulation. And
your question: how do you get vote calculation out of Sag? By placement of Jupiter in Gemini?
No. For me, I make big broad leaps, and Mercury in Sagittarius, for me, is about truth. It's about honesty. It's about sovereignty. Sovereignty is a big issue with Sagittarius. So theoretically, with Mercury in Sagittarius, the ideal would be to communicate in a truthful, honest, straightforward fashion. But because Mercury, Mercury and Sag don't always mix all that well. In fact, details get lost in the translation with Mercury and Sagittarius. So that adds another layer. So you've got a sign that deals and traffics in very large chunks of information, generalities sometimes, over assumptions, and doing so in order to be hopefully sovereign and honest and straightforward. You've got all of these things converging, and then you've got it going backwards and retrograde. And I personally, I use the Sibley chart for the United States. So I believe at that point in time, Mercury is moving backwards in the 12th house of the United States chart. So there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. There are errors in voter tabulation. There are results. I'm just projecting ahead of time. There are results that are projected that get retracted. There's going to be a ton of confusion.
Do you know that Saturn in Scorpios and Pluto in Capricorn smells of corruption and at the deepest underground level possible, man?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what you're saying just brings those words to spell out. I meant to interject, but go ahead, continue.
No, that's okay, because it just feels to me like there's going to be a lot of conflicting stories, a lot of angry people. I'm going back and looking at the great Chad moment in Florida, when all of a sudden it was decided that George Bush's brother was going to step in and win the election, and that was determined ahead of time, by the way. But I see another event happening like that, but at an even greater magnitude, because for me it affects the identity, and not just the identity, but even the soul of what this country theoretically is supposed to be about. I think there's going to be a lot of soul searching the day and the day after the election, especially the day after, the days after the election. I think people are going to be asking what the hell went wrong, not just with the election, but with the tenor of the country in general. That's my sense.
Well, I'm not going to, I can't elaborate very much on that because I haven't given that area very much thought. I've been looking at it more in a tighter circle.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. You know, like I would just ask a question in the chat about the natal and relocated progressions by the guest Gate 7, and I'm going to put that too. Yeah. Because I first came to this understanding that it was law. A lot of people are of the opinion it is law.
Sagittarius?
Somebody asked me in the chat about relocating charts and progressions.
Right.
Yeah, and I wanted to respond to that.
Yeah.
Right? Because the relocation is important. I didn't really take it seriously until 2004 when I did a chart of a woman who she gave me a timeline so that I could use the rectifier chart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? A 10-year timeline. The dates of her children being born, deaths in her family, marriage, and divorce, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she never told me that she was divorced, married, in another. So I got all of these to her planetary pattern perfectly, except those two events. And when I got it to line up, those two events to line up, then all of the others are out of. And I kept telling her, there's something wrong with this timeline. And obviously, I can't get it to the day like I can with the other planets. And she said, and by the way, yeah, to the day. We get them to the day. Mm-hmm. Right? And she said, because I might have been, she said, because I was doing a lot of traveling then. I said, well, where were you when you got married and where were you when you got divorced? She said, well, I got divorced in Brockport, Massachusetts. But all of the other events occurred in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area.
Mm-hmm. So
after I did the relocation, I realized that was very important in lining up those events to the angles, because longitudes and latitudes are stressed.
Right.
And and a lot of people have gotten away from that because it's a lot easier now to go to the computer and put in the birth information and the time and press a button and let the software do the calculation for you. So they have not been made aware of these shifts by manual calculation and the work and consideration that goes into those comparative studies.
Right.
That answers the individual's question. You see, I got my brother out there. My family came into attendance.
I saw Kair in there.
Yeah, So, I want to say peace to him. I want to let everybody know I also do my own radio show on Sundays, every Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern to 11 o'clock. And we do readings at the end most of the time, 99.9% of the time. We try to pull in as many astrologers as we can and do the round table thing with issues like this, because you're going to pick up on the things that are intrinsic to your chart and your nature and your karmic in here. And therefore, what you have to bring to the table. You see, and that's why it is so individual when you're doing genophilical applications or applied event astrology. You dig? And that's really where my focus is at. I mean, I'm dabbling in my education. I've even played with the formulas of the ancient Egyptians and the Mayans progressing the poles at 7,200 years. I mean, 1 degree every 7,200 years. Dealing with polar days and astroarchaeonomic, whatever they call that, archaeology or whatever.
Yep.
Or they try to say it's astronomy, but it's all astrology. You know what I mean? I mean, when you study the cultures and myths of these people, it's all astrology, no matter where you find it, from pole to pole.
Yep.
So indeed, and what else did I leave out? I have an academy on Facebook where it's a study group is what my intention was. Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I'm rigid on the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see any need explaining to you an aspect when you haven't even studied, the nature of the diurnal. You did, I would know how a chart works. Let's deal with that. Let's bring you in on the very beginning, the diurnal. Then we go to the longitudes and the latitudes, and the difference between time zones. Because a lot of people overlook that in this day and age, in this new generation, in this technological age.
Yeah.
So Saturn also now is more mathematical, And I love how you put that thing on the teacher. You said these teachers sex and sex education, and teachers molesting students, and all of that. Pluto in Capricorn and Saturn and Scorpio energy just coming out now that the Saturn ingresses. But it's been in an embryonic stage the whole time. Pluto has been running over this young woman or the teacher one. I would be interested to know their generational age. Was Uranus and Scorpio one of them?
I would say that she's probably Uranus in either Aquarius or Uranus in Pisces. I'm betting Uranus in Aquarius.
Oh, she's that young? She's that young? 14?
Yes.
13? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's terrible. Oh, that's even worse. But that you have to look at the teacher chart would be more interesting.
Absolutely.
The whole synastry would be exciting. Now and I do that. I look at the charts of John Wilkes Booth and Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Saturn and Scorpio is also one they have for Prophet Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
He had Saturn and Scorpio. And when I think of Saturn and Scorpio, I think severity. Severe will be the consequences if you don't maintain industrialization for renewal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. The other thing that, go ahead.
Those are also stable, constant advancement. You dig stable, slow, plotting, regeneration, and healing. I wouldn't be surprised if they found new discoveries in bone cancer dentistry because of Saturn, and both being, the teeth, Saturn, and the bones, and Scorpio being life or death, or Pluto being life and death, or surgery, or healing process. It was beyond me to see advances made in medicine of the kind aspect that cometh about by virtue of Jupiter about to be in Cancer and Neptune having already been sitting at home in the modern modern rulership. That whole thing right there, gives a whole new idea to the drug culture. But you have to trace those planets back, man. Like when the whole thing about the synthetic drugs being now the epidemic with the youth, right? I look at
PCI and stuff like that.
The Neptune's going through Aquarius.
Right.
Is where all it was fabricated. And Pluto and says that this ushered these things in. You can't look at the one transit alone by itself, Saturn and Scorpio, and think that you're going to get the true gist of what this is going to manifest at. You have to look at what that complements in the sky when it ingressed Scorpio, and look at what it didn't complement or what wasn't complementing it by virtue of aspect. And these are just, I think, basic, laws for interpretation, but they always give you the best results, when you follow classical rules, But then I can look at the Vedantic view interpretation, because Saturn and, the aspects are the same sidereally or lunar sidereally and tropically. The aspects remain. So, I look at the Vedic chart and reinterpret it in Western terms, by virtue of the planets involved.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And that, Saturn and Scorpio, how they would define it still rings true for Saturn and Scorpio on the tropical, application. So, because the key words are the same. So I look at how Scorpio has to do with bonds in relationships, Okay? It is the actual relationship itself.
Right.
You know, when people think that Libra is the relationship, you know, Libra is the contract. It's the agreement. You know, my Kair highlighted, he spoke on it, and it rang true for me because I understood that Scorpio was the consummation of the marriage.
Right. Yeah, that made sense. Kair and I talked about that when he was on the show last time. And, and that made total sense.
So when Saturn comes through there, he's coming in there to destroy all things not intrinsic to the development of that aspect in your life according to where it's found in your chart.
Right. Yep. Makes total sense. Another revelation that's come out very early here is Saturn and Scorpio, of course, is what's happening with Lance Armstrong and, PEDs and EPO and the American Cycle Team testifying against him and a number of other cyclists. All those guys, by the way, were having their feet held to the fire because if they didn't testify, they were going down. So now we're having this dog and pony show again with steroids, performance-enhancing drugs, and Saturn, which is law, which is force, which is gravity, which is pressure, coming down on one of America's supposed icons. And I assume that there's going to be more revelations, not only in Armstrong's world, but in other, in the realm of other professional athletes. And personally, this is just between me and everybody else that's listening, I think this whole thing with performance-enhancing drugs is a complete and utter farce. But that's a whole other story altogether. But here we go, another, sort of Scorpionic, Saturnian revelation based on drugs and based on power and based on, in some ways even, based on what I've read, the abuse of power with Lance Armstrong. So I think we're going to see more of that, and not just in his camp, but across the board. What are steroids? How do we use steroids? Can we actually, regulate them?
That is interesting that you say that. Like you forced me to look at a paradigm too when you said sovereignty is a really big issue with Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Okay. I look at sovereignty as a Leo thing, but that's the fifth house. That's the ninth house. Pardon me. That's the ninth house of Sag. So that's the intellectual strength of Sag. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just like his left hand, his right hand, or whatever when it comes to those types of concepts. And I look at the whole, I look at sovereignty on the individual citizenship level too.
Yeah.
And I hear that movement is like really big out west, and but it's a very old movement, really.
It is an old movement, and I don't know how big it is out here. Although one of my subscribers to my newsletters, Patrick, is all over it. He's no longer a U.S. citizen. He's pulled himself out of the system. He's no longer a citizen of the city of London, which is apparently what we're all chattel of, based on the straw man and based on, it's a fairly complicated system. But this would actually be a very interesting thing to get into with Saturn and Scorpio is ownership, right? Ownership, who owns what? Contracts, you talk about the marriage bond. What about the birth bond? What happens at the time of birth when you get that birth certificate and you've got all your name and capitals? What the hell does that mean? How can you rectify that moment?
Man, I did a show on this, man.
Yeah.
Astrologically it ties in too, because the whole process is depriving you of your jurisdiction over your own name, coming about through the Chaldean order from the moon to Mercury to Venus to the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn.
Yeah.
And the whole ritual, the whole protocol is a ritual.
Yeah.
And the same people that employed it were all Chaldean astrology and magic and all of that boo back at the establishment. At the establishment of this country, the Masons and all that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of Crucians and Illuminati, whatever you want to call it. So you when you look at that, first they approach your mother.
Yeah.
And then they with a signature, even she had recovery from the moon to Mercury, man, with a legal document, Venus and Mercury, and for authority or jurisdiction, the sun, over your sovereignty, the sun. And they use Mars, the police, to this, and of course in the laws, Jupiter, all of that jargon and education and degrees you have to have in order to be in that functioning space, to Saturn, and to put the debt and penalty and limitation on you.
Right.
See? You know, and the outer planets is you know, what your faith and your belief and your desire to rebel and struggle for freedom for your life. Pluto, you know,
right.
and all of that paradigm works to me, man. It's not just some really flowery cookbook type of approach to looking at life. Exactly how it folds. You know? So astrology, cosmophyzix has done a lot to the existing paradigms that I had prior to its realization. So it's constantly a wow aha moment too. You asked me that earlier. I don't think I answered that really. But, you know, just the coincidence, the wonder of it all. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
You know, like some people would pray for a miracle, or they would challenge you to perform a miracle to prove that God existed or that the universe had any form of intelligence in and of itself. Well, if the mathematical schematic that reflects that you can lock in, you are persistent and diligent enough to find the code, you know, and it unravels and it never stops. And it's like no one who's examined it ever seriously ever quit it.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. So I just want to give you one more kind of a shout out, and then we can maybe get into some calls here. I've listened to your radio show. You've got a great roundtable of astrologers. I highly recommend anybody that has any interest in astrology to listen to that show on Sunday night. And it's a really amazing exchange, and of course your Facebook page where people can just learn a hell of a lot about the art and science of astrology. So you want to get into a few readings? Are you into that today?
Sure.
All right. Now I know that you guys have your own system on the show on Sunday night, and you're extremely exact and precise. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a few calls and they'll give you their data, okay? And then what I'll do is I'll talk to them for a little bit, and I'll let you line stuff up because we don't really have the same kind of system that you guys have on your Sunday night show. Does that work for you?
Okay, you know something? You're going to have to run that by me one more time. You're going to bring him, you're going to introduce him, and you're going to give him the once over, and then you're going to pass it to me?
Because I know that you're going to need a little bit of time to, break down their numbers, and because I know something that happens ahead of time.
The demonstration I give is nothing like the reading that you receive when you call for a consultation.
All right.
Okay.
Well, let's just get into this, and we'll see how this goes, all right? So let's go to the 954 number. They've been waiting for quite a while here. Let's bring them on, and let's have them talk to Ra, and we'll see where this goes. Hey, thanks for waiting. Welcome to the show. What's your name, and where are you calling from?
Hi, peace, rather. I'm calling from South Florida.
Okay, hi there. Okay. So what is your what's your coordinates? Date, time, place of birth, all that good stuff.
June 2nd, 1981 at 9:11 a.m. in Fort Lauderdale.
Did you get that, Rob?
I got June 2nd, 1991. And I'm not going to go all the way to Fort Lauderdale because I only need to relocate it in the event that, I'm trying to make a prediction. It only needs to be mathematically precise on those circumstances, right? I have a town already in my program for Pensacola. That's not far, right?
No, not too far. A few hundred miles.
Good. So, yeah, we're only a few degrees within it. So what time of day is the 2nd, 91?
No, 1982.
Okay, pardon me, 82. What time of day, June 2nd, 82?
9:11 a.m.
9:11 a.m. This comes from the birth certificate, of course, right? Hold on a moment, please.
Yes.
I gotta stop the noise. I'm back.
That's good radio right there.
Yeah, man, it's real, right? Especially when we're doing this from home. All right.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
I missed, pardon me, I was distracted. I need that time of day again, pardon me.
9:11 a.m.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. All right. That puts you at the end of Cancer. You know, you ever injure your lower leg, your ankle, fall on your tailbone?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're good then. We got it. See? Simple, plain and easy. Didn't take much time at all, Rob. Now, there's a lot going on. Your communication on your domestic situation was wrecked recently over the last 2 years. You know, following that Saturn trail through this stellium in Libra. Some issues with fairness or legalities or the partnership. Was the order for like the last 2.5 years?
Yes, there was quite a deal.
So now Saturn runs over top of your Jupiter, and there's an issue with moving, transportation, or education, right? One of those, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, real quick now, because we don't, because, you know, we got to keep breeze to as many people as we can, right?
Yep.
What's your question?
Particularly business-wise, I'm looking to go a different route and stepping out a bit.
Did you have some difficulties with contracts and legalities or promises and the fulfillment of cooperative venture with other people, stuff like that? That was
yes.
You want to take another route?
Not yes and no.
Okay, very well. I mean, I can't get but so detailed in this really short amount of time, right? Because we'd have to look at how Saturn touched each one of those and at what time period to see what lessons you got, right? But you got Jupiter and Scorpio here, so there's going to be some difficulty or some delays with in terms of growth and expansion and enterprise, especially if it depends on shared resources of other people and acquired interests that come along with the deal. You understand? They come along with the promise, so or the negotiation. So you can wait until Saturn gets past that, all right? But at the same time, Saturn's going to be opposing Venus in Taurus in just like what? By the 30th of October, it'll be in opposition, and in the first week of November, it'll be opposing your Venus immediately. So all financial venture, and Venus is in Taurus, right, in this chart, and it's in your 10th place, so this has to do with your lifestyle and, you know, your goals and financial things. So you don't be way too optimistic right now, because there'll be a lesson to be learned from that. Saturn running over your Jupiter, opposing your Venus. And, you know, because Jupiter and Venus are in opposition in your birth chart, there has no doubt lessons that have been learned through spending and overspending and overengaging and overindulging in your appetites, if not economically, then biologically, your diet, whatever. You know, that it's an influence. So I think that's pretty good, right? Is that enough for right now?
That was on point.
You know you can reach me at 516-881-6992. I do charge for consultations, y'all. You know, $100 for an hour. I rectify your chart. I leave you with a 30-day schedule. And any questions you have regarding the schedule, we go over them. And you have the option to call me back regarding those days. So, we can line it up, because sometimes I might have rectified it within 4 or 5 minutes off, which would be off about 2 or 3 days or maybe 1 day. So we have to make that time adjustment to ensure that doesn't happen anymore. You know, and that's yeah. So you can call me.
Let me say really quickly, I have had a reading with you before, earlier, a few months ago. And you realize it after we hang up who I am. But it was...
I know. I've read you before?
Yeah, you have.
Oh, wow, that's not fair. You know.
But you were very on point with a lot of things. I had a reading right before I went out of the country, and a lot of the things that you told me were, as far as looking out for and things that would be present actually did reveal themselves, and we were able to basically avoid a lot of things because of that, because I had the knowledge of it.
So. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose, yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to say I appreciate that, and everything else was on point also.
And I still don't know who you are, so you want to say your name, or you want to let me figure it out later? You want to tell me about some other names?
I'll inbox you.
You know, hey Rob, what are you doing, man?
I'm just listening to this reunion here and taking it all in.
It happens, man, you know, and because this is the primary, me, you know, I broadcast on Blog Talk, so a lot of the people, I'm run into them again, but it's rare that I do it, you know, that it happens in public, you know.
Yeah.
So, but at any rate, I hope you take into consideration what I had to say and understand, too, that there are many variables of what I gave. And, you know, the short time span which we had to discuss this is not written in stone. Having a knowledge of the influences in your life give you the power to direct yourself in the current.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, thank you for calling in, and don't be a stranger, and have a blessed day.
You too.
All right, bye-bye. Let's go to the 313, and they've been on hold for almost an hour. Hey, thanks for holding, being patient. What's your name, where are you calling from, and let's break down your birth details with Ra.
Okay, yeah, this is Royce. I'm calling from Detroit.
Hey, Royce.
Birth date, February 16th, 1973, Detroit, Michigan. Birth time, 9:08 p.m.
February 16th, 1973.
9:08 p.m. Yeah, I got to get it in. I got to bring it back up.
9:08 p.m.
That latitude right there bends about, like, what, 35 degrees?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want to, you know, I want to be a little bit more precise. I don't want to round anything off today, right? Just be a little, bring it up here to Detroit, because I do have a place.
I got 42. I got 42. Let's see.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
4220, 42
Yeah.
North 20.
Yeah.
And
I got Chiron sitting right on your ascendant.
Yep.
Actually, it's not quite. It's 5 degrees, but still, it's there. It's close enough. That's a pretty significant position for Chiron.
Yeah, I'm bringing this chart up. Just give me.
And you've got a pretty interesting splay chart too. I mean, you've got action going on in every house except for 2. I think splay charts are fascinating because, for me, the splay chart represents almost the equivalent of a Renaissance person who has a great deal of interest in a number of different things and can tend to be a fairly complex personality. And you've got that really fantastic grand trine, that air trine. So super intellectual, very curious, and a lot of interest. So I mean, I'm just riffing here while Ra gets set up. I think the biggest challenge for you is kind of where you want to take your energy and what you want to do. Sometimes with a splay chart, people can be very good at a lot of different things, and they can be naturals in a wide variety of areas, but it doesn't often allow them to go deep in any given area at any particular time. So if they're not careful, they can be a bit dilettantish and do things with a fair amount of flourish, but not always a significant amount of depth. And I'm not saying that that's your issue or challenge, but that can be the challenge with a splay chart. So
no, I don't disagree at all. At all.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying. Definitely.
Yeah. So you ready to rock and roll there, Ra? You ready to jump in?
Yeah. I got Virgo at the ascendant here.
You got Virgo, huh?
Yeah, I got
9:08 a.m.
You got
9:08 p.m.
Oh, a p.m.
Yeah, I got 9:08 p.m.
My bad. That takes your Chiron. You still have a splay chart, but it takes Chiron in a different place.
Yeah.
Let me get PM.
Yeah, because Libra's my ascendant, though.
Yeah. Hold on, PM.
So that's what you think. Let's see. Let's see, all right? According to cosmophysics, I mean, the Libra's your ascendant we use in your birth chart, man, but there's a difference between astrological.
You're doing equal house charts on this, right? That's where you're going with this, right?
No, not at all. That has the angles are the same regardless. The angles are the same. So the thing is, I use equal house in the reading, yes, but in the diagnostic analysis, keyword breakdown, delineation.
So Chiron winds up in your 7th house then, and it's not on the angle, at least in how I'm looking at it. But that moves into the 7th house. Splay chart still exists, and
daylight saving time was not in effect, right?
In 73 at that time.
I got 78. Is it 73?
Yeah, 73.
It would still be fairly the same, though. Which is it, 73 or 78?
73.
73.
All right, very well. All right, but still, February 6th at 8:08, it's not going to change the ascendant that much, not even a degree.
10, 16, 1-6.
Yeah, 1-6.
Oh, February 16th.
Yes.
Oh, goodness, man, look at me.
Yeah.
All right, so now we got that right.
There
I still got Virgo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what degree do you have there? What happened to the show? Hello?
Sound like his call might have dropped.
I think he dropped. Yeah.
You got to excuse me, my Bluetooth dropped. I didn't get to hear that.
Okay. There you go. So I said, what degree on the ascendant do you have for him?
I'm not using Detroit, but I'm in Endicott, New York. That's where it's 42nd latitude. It's,
Okay.
you know, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. Right.
So,
That's
Okay.
I'm on the 42nd latitude, so his ascendant is Virgo.
Okay. I ran it through Astro Deans. I got him at Libra. So I'm not sure where the.
Okay, well I'm gonna check it like this here. I want you to understand that we understand, or we have observed, that the clinical birth time, and astrological birth time are not the same.
Right.
For some babies are born breathing, some babies are put in incubators, and that tampers with the mechanical kick-in of the chart. And this is a repetition.
How do you make that determination, Rob? Because I think that's an interesting point.
Because when you line up the events later on, like let's say if we secondary progress his chart according to my formula right now, his secondary progress should reveal what's happening at this moment right now. And if we degree per day go backwards to then let's say 4 or 5 days he had a Mercury event according to the chart, then it should manifest in life. And we find often 98% of the time that a person, their birth time does not line up to the motion of the formula 1 day per year. But when we readjust that time to that planetary motion and they are in sync, that rectification process, we are able now to accurately predict to the day, and they happen in 4-day blocks, by the way. But to the day, we can predict influence, a manifestation of influence.
So let me ask you a question. Roy seems to have a working knowledge of his own chart. And based on the working knowledge of his own chart and the calculations that he's made, you know, up until now, he's got himself as a Libra rising. Now, and he's been on this planet now for almost 40 years. And
you know something? That's fair for you to make those assumptions, okay? But but my system and approach of cosmophysics doesn't allow for that ideology right there. And I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that we focus on mathematical precision. You see, so regardless of what the person thinks, the chart dictates what works. I mean, if you had, like, for example, let's see, for example, all right? Most of the time, the conjunction of Pluto and Uranus, people born in 65, in the third house injures the right arm. Now, we can predict that to the day, or we can set the chart up to illustrate that event to the day, and then reverse engineer the chart to a totally different time of birth. But then progress the chart and then get accurate results. I've been doing this for 15 years. I don't have a single complaint. And I'm on the radio for people, I'm on the radio for people to call in and correct me, but I haven't had that, and I invite everyone to do it. So it's not like, I'm not saying that he's not a Libra according to his system of calculation. First, because
I'm using Astro, like you said, I'm using Astro.com. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I understand.
So, I mean, but I do like the way that you do it.
You're using the time of birth that you've never measured your chart against. You've never measured your chart against the events in your life extensively year for year.
Let me ask you another question, Rob. Could there be an instance where the time of birth is really just the time of birth? I mean, does it always have to be rectified?
Listen, about 2 out of every 50 people I meet, yes, it works perfectly. And it doesn't. There's no dispute. See, and the thing is, because I got into it to be able to make predictions for people, this is what I charge for. This is what my fee is for.
Right.
My fee is for the accuracy. If it's not accuracy, then I don't charge you for something that is not so.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Well,
let's say for the sake of your system, and that Royce is interested in your system. Put him at a Virgo rising, and then let's play with that, and let's see.
No, what I'm saying is it's very easy to determine whether it's Virgo or Libra simply by this line of examination that I'm about to put him through. So all of this really is longer than it would have taken to determine which one it was.
Yeah.
If he's a Virgo rising, then with Chiron and Aries, then he shows some affliction to the face or head. Okay, that could be headaches, sinus allergies, migraines, earache in the left ear, not the right ear. Okay, and or cuts or burns or scrapes to the face or scalp somewhere. Now,
you on 100, Ra. You on 100 for real. Everything you just said. I mean, I had a habit of bumping my head when I was a kid. I do have an earring in my left ear.
Okay, hold on. Let me finish. You see, and then as he progressed into Libra. You see, he must progress every year into Libra. That's approximately 1 degree coming out of Virgo, right?
Right.
And by sign of faster, I mean, that's pretty even ascent by now. After Virgo rises approximately 144 minutes per day on the 42nd latitude. All right? So by the time it gets into Libra, it stabilizes to almost 2 hours or 1 degree equal 4 minutes. It's almost 1 degree per year. The thing is, and this is the unorthodox system that is cosmophysics.
Right.
I can do without your birth chart. You see, without that's what is cosmophysics, but it's based on astrology. Mm-hmm. So therefore, they're inseparable. Cosmophysics is daughter of astrology, and I'm married to her.
I saw that. I saw that on your page.
So listen. So the thing is, so even though people want to dispute, no, I'm a this, I'm a that. I'm like, okay, according to my system, you're a this. Just like if you go to a Vedantic astrologer, he's going to be 23, 24 degrees off of what you calculate in terms of your ascendant, your Lagna to your Western to your tropical ascendant. That doesn't invalidate the accuracy of his reading. If he's good at what he does, he's going to be accurate, whether he's using Chinese, Vedic, whether this system of measurement, that system. Well, I'm using a system of measurement that I've extended from my own practice. So, like people confess, they read their own chart to you. Like, oh, man, I can't. My sinus allergies. Oh, well, all he's saying is, oh, no, I can't. I'm a Virgo rising, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, let's get into it. You've got him in Virgo rising.
There are also exceptions, because harsh aspects to Mars will mark the face or head regardless of the ascendant. Or Mars in the first house will mark the face or head regardless of the ascendant sign. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mars will mark the ascendant, will mark the sign that he's in anatomically. And these are, I haven't taken medical astrology to the furthest end. But I've used it to the degree that we can measure the chart up now. Now, we can continue to move on. So for the last 2 years, you've been going through economic upheaval.
Oh, yeah.
And now that Saturn is moving to Scorpio, he's still in your second equal house, but he's in the third domain. So he's now preparing you for restructure of the way you think, the way you speak, the way you rationalize things. It's time now to bring that to a more mature position, and that's what it is at Scorpio too. Everything we do is share resources too. The way you speak and receive messages, information, and dialogue is also going to run into some delays as a symbol of that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you answer my question before I asked it, and I like that.
What was your question?
My question. And I said, you answered. I haven't even asked it because I guess you picked up on where I was going with it, because I definitely wanted to know what was going on with the Scorpio in my second house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's in the second, but it's on the third cusp. It's going to hit your communication. Other signs, like for example, other signs that are going to reveal themselves to you is you losing track of your phone, champ. So, you forget your phone here, you leave it there. This is when that wave of energy is prominent. When you see the colors black and burgundy, too, And aside from the fact that Pluto and Uranus are in this quadrant of your chart rising with Neptune at the end, you got to pay attention to the details, man. Because what people aren't really thinking about, too, Rob, is what I wanted to elaborate on, is this mutual reception has a midpoint in Sagittarius and Gemini.
Right.
So communication and travel, career and domestic. You're really concerned. Say that again?
I think we had a little interference on Royce's end there for a second.
Okay.
You there,
I lost my place anyway. I'm
All right. All right, Royce,
Please.
thank you for calling in. We're going to move on. We're going to take another caller. Let's go to the 917-404. I've been on for 47 minutes. Hey, thanks for calling in. Welcome to the show. What's your name? And why don't you bust out your coordinates and let Ra crunch some numbers for you.
My name is Stephanie. And my birth. Hi. Great to talk to you.
Nice to talk
Thanks
to you.
for everything you do. I enjoyed you both. Well, I don't. What's your name again? Ra.
Me?
And
Ra,
yeah,
this is Ra, and I'm Rob. I'm Ra with a B. He's Ra without the B.
oh, okay. That's why I'm a little. But okay, I enjoy both of you. Gemini energy or whatever twin names. I like that. But okay, my birthplace is Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
September 25th, 1967, 8:08 p.m. Erie County.
September what? 1967, you said?
25th, September 25th, 1967.
Okay.
And it's in Buffalo.
And the time again?
8:08 p.m. Yes.
Give me a second to get this together here. All right? All these extreme northern latitudes hitting us all of a sudden, man.
It's coming down, man. Head north. That's the message. Get out of the New Madrid fault line. That's the message.
I've been looking for this site online for years. Okay, I only heard of it, and they said that there was this guy who projects using astrocartography. He predicts earthquakes. I've been looking for that site for years. I can't find it, man. If you know anything about it, forward it to me, please, at Facebook through my inbox or at RaAkhu at yahoo.com. Need it.
So, Rob, looking at, I mean, using my, my own little system, which is the system I've been using for a long time, which is the basic system. I'm looking at a pretty interesting chart. I don't know what you're going to look at, but I see a pretty interesting chart here.
Yeah. Okay.
There is a Zen-like simplicity to this chart that's absolutely fascinating.
Oh, great. That's how I live. I sit that way, but it seems like...
Definite Zen-like simplicity, and also from what I'm seeing, very pointed focus. Like you're here to do pretty much, one or two very specific things, and really work on those things in detail and in great depth. Based on what I'm seeing, but I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna back off the accelerator, and I'm gonna let the professor take a moment or two to get settled and hone in on this.
All right. I just got, I'm using solar fire, so I have to, and I got so many cities in there. I got to delete and add and delete and add, but I finally got it in Buffalo. Okay. So, and I got it in daylight savings time too. So now I got September 25th, 67, 8:08 p.m. Get ready to put that in there. Hello?
Yep, we're here.
Okay, yeah, well, I also would like you to know I'm using cell phone technology. Every now and then I get kicked out.
No, I hear you, man. Yeah, and there's those weird sort of dead zone patches occasionally with cell phones too. Not even when you're traveling around, but they just happen. You drop out every now and then. But you're loud and clear, man. We got you.
I'm coming. I'm getting the time in here now, 8:08. Yeah. Wow. Now that's really strange. Rare occurrence that we get perfectly 0 degree in the first third.
Right.
Yeah, less than 1 degree into the two sign here. What I got, 0 degrees, 21 minutes of Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And let me see. Wow. You have you known an issue, a scar, or an injury, or a sharp pain in your upper leg, in your thigh, or in your sciatic, or your hip?
Stephanie, you there? It looks like she dropped out, man.
Well, it happens, and just when we talked about it too, right?
Yep, we were just there.
Yeah.
Let's see where we can go here. Let's go to 718. They've been on for 48 minutes. Hi there, thanks for holding. Yeah, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Peace to both of you. I really enjoy you both on all types of blog talk, different radio shows.
Thank you. Yeah.
And peace to Kaye for posting the show also. Okay, so I'm 5'25", 77.
5:25.
Friday. On a Friday, and I believe it's about 3:30 p.m. New York City.
Yeah, I got that. 718. That gave me the jump.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Give me the jump right there because I'm familiar with that. Oh, we got Libra rising here. You ever had an issue with your throat or your right ear?
No.
Strep throat, laryngitis, tonsillitis, anything like that?
No, thank God. Mm-mm.
Okay, not as a child either? No ear infections, nothing like that, okay. So, see, now I would just not want to even put Libra at the ascendant right there. That would just be totally against what I'm thinking here. So what about sinus, allergies, or headaches?
I've been basically very healthy, thank goodness. Like,
at any point in your life, if you know any affliction, because we're not from kryptonite, we're all human beings, and we all have of affliction.
How about a broken heart? Have you had a broken heart?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
There you go. Heart affliction.
Well, you see, I pay myself to use that. Okay.
No, man. I'm just messing. I'm being.
Saturn Leo is going to say a broken heart anyway, man.
I was being a monkey there for a moment.
Saturn and Leo square Mercury and Uranus and Scorpio. That T-square says a broken heart all day. 2005 was rough. Okay, we can get into that. Yeah, so see, we can get into planetary motion all day and hit them in the head, but I like to focus on the ascendant because where I'm gonna go with it after that is my own realm, and I don't have the convenience of ever having any formal training in this. I've been doing it by myself for years.
Right.
Let my clients teach me. You see?
Wow.
Yeah, 2005 was and the last 2 years, you've been going through some new values and some new standards and new principles with regard to relationships and sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sharing resources. And, now it's like you determine what you're trying to determine now, whether you should keep it going or just move into another direction altogether as far as your relationship is concerned.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, see? Now, see, and I didn't leave Libra at the ascendant, y'all. I just used my system, okay? So, I mean, if it gives good results, I mean, if it works, don't fix it.
Right.
Indeed. There's going to be some sudden changes, too, because, you got Saturn and you got Uranus going through Aries in your chart. And, that's where Venus and Mars is. So, you've now become to a realization that your impulsiveness in relationships doesn't work out too well. And if you adhere to it, you stick to it, cling to it with the faith that it's going to work, it wasn't written for you to
to approach relationships like that. It was written for you to learn how not to do that, because there's an opposition here between Mars and Pluto and Venus. So it always falls into a battle of the wills in your relationship, even on a contractual level. And understanding that dynamic, you know, and it's in a relationship, it's in a place of relationship, it deals with relationships, it deals with values and morals, it deals with principles, and it deals with finances and shared resources. You know, you're going to have to make an adjustment, or you will be in a situation where the situation suddenly change. You know, your everything you rely upon, you know, not literally, but figuratively falls off under your feet. This happens to do with Uranus opposing Pluto.
Oh my God, I'm so confused.
Well, hey, can I chime in for a second, Ra?
Yeah,
like, okay, well, how do I do this? Okay.
Well, okay, so one of the
I can take for granted. I didn't realize all of a sudden that I was
one of the things that I was keying in on with the relationship thing, because I think the relationship thing is a big deal here with that Venus and Mars conjunction and the outlier of Chiron moving into Taurus. But she's got this trine, this grand trine going on with Neptune and Saturn and Venus and Mars. And I think the conflict in relationship for you could be resolved by not necessarily your attitude per se, but who you're really, for you, it's really about who you're with, you know, and the type of person that you need to align with in order for all your values to be congruent, and you can let go of feeling the need to be in control or be in a leadership role in the relationship. What does that mean? It means that if you need to be with somebody that you trust, value, really respect, and have really road tested. And when all that comes together for you, you know, with Sagittarius, with Leo, that in the set with Venus and Mars, you can let go. And you don't have to be in charge in the relationship. You can contribute, and you can add the wonder and the intensity and the passion of this grand trine. But until you really find and align yourself with that person who matches up in a way that is really congruent with you, your values, and how you really can open your heart, that's going to be an issue. And you're going to get into that power struggle with Pluto and Venus and Mars. So for you, it really is a big deal about who you're with, and road testing and really vetting that person, not to the point where you're taking that Pluto and really grinding them and putting them through the ringer and testing them over and over again, because you'll lose them at that point, right? You know, you just have to figure out a few times that that's going to work, that this is a person that really, you know, matches up. And then over a consistent period of being together, then you can let go. And when you let go, you will be a force in that relationship in a way that is not competitive. That's kind of what I'm seeing, at least on the relationship angle, Ra.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I lost track of the idea that I wasn't speaking to somebody who understood astrology and just ran off into the terms. Like,
yeah,
well, I appreciate you, Ron. Like everything that you were saying, like I'm understanding, but I'm a lay person still. Like I haven't done my chart. I don't really know that much.
You took the elevator to the penthouse, Ron.
I see. Yeah. You have two planets. I mean, you have a configuration, an alignment in your chart that forms a 90-degree angle, a half of a square. It's called a T-square. Two planets in opposition, and another planet in central focus. And I mean, I could imagine, you know, from the demographic, you know, location, you know, what those planets could possibly bring in that period of time, and hope. And I'm being so distracted by my environment. If the house is on fire, close my door, please.
I love it. I love the fact that we're all essentially hanging out in our bedrooms, in our living rooms, or something close to it, right? We're all hanging out right now.
What it is, man, people, and it really, this is my passion. I don't have time for nothing else when I'm doing this.
Yeah,
you know,
I love it. Though. This is great.
Talking about the Scorpio of it all, I'm obsessed with it. You know, and I'm only obsessed with learning what it brings forth. And I found that I learn more
when I teach. I find that I'm exposed to a lot more when I'm interactively employing this into my everyday routine. And I'm actually in love with this science, and I don't reject any aspect of it. So I don't get into the argument of the sidereal and tropical, because I understand that in order to set the dashas and bhuktis in the Vedic system, you need that sidereal lunar arrangement to set the nakshatras. Thus and therefore, it is perfectly appropriate in this application, and so is everything else. So you know, and I've made observations that are like discoveries, right? But I'm sure there are other astrologers who've made these observations, but they've not published them, or they're trade secrets, or they're secrets. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and it really gets to the point where I'm like a scientist alone in the laboratory. There's not enough people on the planet to understand the terminology. There's not enough people on the planet to even give them thought to understand its value. You understand what I'm saying? Applicability to the improvement of their life or anything like that. So my whole mission with cosmophysics is to simplify it and bring it to everybody and put it in a link that everybody can understand, even though that is my biggest struggle. You understand what I'm saying? That's my biggest struggle.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you apply a little of that to the sister here, and then let's try to squeeze in another call or two.
Okay, man. Sure, indeed. You know, it's easy for me to get sidetracked, too, right?
Yeah.
But, yes, it is, man. So many fleeting thoughts. I don't want to let them all get away from me. All right. This is September 25th, right?
Right. May 25th.
You said May, or is it September?
September.
No, May 25th. May 25th.
May 25th. Oh, there. Yeah, September was the last caller.
Okay, right.
And it was September 25th too.
And this is 67.
77.
77.
All right. Evidently, I wrote down the fact screwed up. All right, I was writing too fast. So now, let me get it again. May 25th, 77. At what time of day?
3:30. Around 3:30.
Okay.
New York.
And this is in New York?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm already in New York. Good. 3:30 approximately. Yeah, I got Libra rising, and so for the last 2 years or so, you've had an issue confronting you regarding relationship.
Yes, with a Libra in particular.
Huh?
With a Libra in particular. Oh Lord.
Oh, so his son gave life to that. So they put a lot of time regarding shared resources and value with regard to, you know, loyalty, I guess I would.
Yes, oh Lord.
Yeah. His sense of urgency switch the planet all the time, right? A sudden action change you can never rely on in certain circumstances, and this is what Saturn does when he comes into, and he had to shatter any trust that is between, right?
Hey, Ra, you're fading out. Every other word is dropping, brother.
Oh, pardon me.
That's okay.
Yeah. So nothing I said was understood, was intelligible. What I was saying was Saturn just rolled over your Pluto station. So basically, there's a transformative process that's going on in your relationships. Saturn coming through there is that it's time for you to rid yourself of old values and old ways of doing things. And Pluto represented the renewal of these things or the removal of those things. Okay? Now he moves into Scorpio where you have Uranus. And any adherence to the disciplines and the restructurization that was necessary in cooperative venture, government, legal, or partnership ventures and things of this nature that you just went through in the last 2 years, you're gonna see sudden change, sudden fluctuation. You're gonna be held to account for the liberties that you take or for procrastinating. You know, I'm talking about Uranus here, Saturn meeting Uranus by conjunction, a natal chart. Okay. You see? Okay. And this is going to have to do with a lot of your possessions or values, you know, because the second house deals with, you know. So you got about 3 years of readjustment regarding that. Some starting to see is some difficulties or delays with mechanical or electrical breakdowns, or having to refurbish or get a new computer or on your car, because Uranus is also in opposition to Mercury and Chiron, and it's intrinsic to your economics, and that squares your stability. Hello?
Okay. Hello.
Did I say anything that you need? Did you have a question of, or that you need me to furtherly translate from an astrological perspective to layman's terms?
I think I understand the relationship, like in terms of like the money, and you said like things that I have to be disciplined with, or like everything is like I have to reorganize myself. Like I guess I'm trying to understand that part.
All right. Ra is moving into the fifth dimension, apparently.
Oh, because the second house is values, man. It's not just money.
Yeah, it's values.
It's the valuables, you see. And I got 3:30 p.m. It gives me Libra Rahu, so that's running over Uranus position. Okay, Uranus is love. So when she sees money, it's going to continue to rip. Have its psychological manifestation, its emotional manifestation, its economic, all over the place. Eventually, to the second house, reset everyone's value. That's the universal. That's why I'm stressing it. Why you say second dimension?
Who? Me? I said fifth dimension because you're fading in and out of the phone, like you're moving out of one dimension to another.
I don't know what that is. The satellite connection or what? Because I am using satellite.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's getting a little turbulent. Why don't we do this? Let's try and take one more call because it seems like the connection's getting thin. Hey, thanks for calling in. Take good care.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Now, as I put my Bluetooth back in.
Let's just bring Kair in for a moment. Say hi, and I got to take. Somebody's calling in from overseas. I want to take that call. Let's bring Kair in for a moment. Just give him a shout. What's going on, Kair? Hello?
You have to give him a second. He might have his phone on mute. He does that, Somebody is also writing me in the chat, and the language. Is the language, I can't understand it at all. And I have to take it to Google so that I could...
there you go.
Yes, I can see.
All right, I'm going to bail. I think this is Kair. I'm going to put him back in hold. Let's do one more call. This is an overseas call, and it's probably the last time for a reading we'll have today. But let's just... they're calling from all the way across the planet through the wonder of the Internet, the magic of technology, the reincarnation of Atlantis. Here we go. Hey, thanks for calling in. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I can't hear you. Say that again, please.
Well, I said welcome, and he said, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well, thank you. How are you guys?
We're doing well. You in Great Britain?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
My name's Annette. And my date of birth is the 30th of December, 1981.
30th December, 1981. And where was that?
In London, at 2:50 a.m.
Okay, 2:50 a.m. All right. So what's the buzz on this Jimmy Savile thing right now in England? How much are people talking?
It's ramping up now. There's a lot of exposure. A lot of things are coming to light. So yeah, it's all over the press. It's all over the press on the news. So yeah, it's ramping up.
Wow, amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I just read
quite a few of them are coming out now as well. Actually, a lot of his associates
that used to go to a lot of events with him, or that was at events with him, they're coming to light too. So it's quite interesting.
I think this is a big deal, and I've been reading a series of posts on a blog about a society called Royal Arch X, and it's essentially kind of a bloodline society where they bring kids who've been sired outside of the bloodline into kind of a trauma control environment. And there's a lot of stuff going on with abuse, cattle prods, all kinds of crazy shit. And some of the names that are coming out of this are mind blowing. Douglas Hurd, Simon Cowell, Piers Morgan. Yeah, it goes really. This goes pretty deep, and so this is all starting to come to light. And when and I wouldn't say it's a fringe website, but it's not a mainstream website either. But so when it starts to hit websites like this, I can assure you that within 6 months to a year, it's going to start to hit more mainstream websites. So I think we're just starting to hit the tip of the iceberg around abuse and the circles of abuse, not just in England, but also the United States as well, because the two are connected. So, Ra, what do you got there, man? You got some coordinates?
Yeah, I put it in London. I use Astro.com. I left solar alone, right? And I got 5 degrees Scorpio, rising Jupiter right there, 7. And here goes a very adventurous young lady who likes to travel and, daredevil attitude or courage is what I get from that immediately. All right, but because Saturn is moving in, he's learned serious lessons about that adventure. I think dealing with school or travel. Did you miss the trip, or did you drop out of school?
I've just started school. I've just gone back after a few years.
Okay. After a delay, there it goes. Very well.
I'm kind of apprehensive about it. I'm not sure if it's the right move I've taken.
I would stay there, okay, because you have an opportunity. See, Saturn is I look at it like this. Saturn is in the 12th place of Jupiter, and a lack of discipline will very well lead to your undoing in terms of education or in terms of your broadcasting, promotion, or expansionist technique or application, anything you want in life. Okay. So apprehension does not behoove you. And to learn to become more optimistic in all of those situations is also a mark of that, Saturn being in the 12th house of your Jupiter. Now, this transformation has come to confront you. Evidently, Saturn moving into your first sign of your chart is not quite across your ascendant. You got till November the 16th to deal with it. But in this retrograde cycle, you got June the 31st of next year and July the 23rd of next year to be concerned about this, how can I say this, outgoing or indulgent, over-anxious, expansionist, principled, or described event or process. Did I take you too far out of the way with that? Should I break it down a little bit?
Yes, please.
Okay, like for example, because you're going back to school, Jupiter is part of your schooling, okay? And Jupiter is indicative of schooling astrologically. So Saturn coming to that means that more discipline, more structurization, more self-denial too, and maturity need be applied to the fact that you're going to school. You take it a little bit more seriously than you're doing, okay? And you're going to run into some challenges with that regard based on transits, based on the movements that are current at the time. We have to plot that out, to determine that. But basically, it's time for you to stabilize and use that as a situation to stabilize your life and how you're going to live. Usually the fact that you went through a delay with that regard is just typical of the fact that you went through a Saturn return just recently. So that's delays. I mean, it's just a given. It's a given that you had to grapple with timing and delays and structure, and responsibility also came into play. Bills and debts, maybe school loans, or your lifestyle, the way you were living, the way you let your relationships interfere with your schooling and all of that need now come before you. So now because of that, you have to transform. You have to reevaluate your situation. It's going to change the way you look at things how fast you jump into things, your enthusiasm for things is going to definitely mature, if not transform altogether. And there's some serious lessons to be learned when you resist the course of this process. You know, so just being mindful that you're in for a personality overhaul.
I love the Saturn first house transit. I think it's one of the best transits that can take place, especially in Scorpio, because there's a real coalescing of the energy and a real focusing of the energy. And you're going to be able to get a lot done, a lot accomplished over close to the next 3 years. And to Ra's point, I think that the person that you're going to be 3 years from now is going to look very different and feel very different from the person that we're talking to on the phone currently. And I think really the flourish, the final flourish of that transit is when Saturn moves over Uranus and gives you, from what I can see here, your own personal imprimatur. There's going to be something very specific about that transit, especially as it sextiles Mars, that is going to be kind of your own unique signature, something that you yourself, kind of like what Ra is doing with cosmophyzix, that you yourself are related to and linked to, because it's right there in the first house and on the cusp of the second, which means it's going to make you money. So anything that you're working towards or endeavoring to understand, grasp, or master, make sure that it has your own unique signature. You don't have to do it right away, but it's coming and it will evolve, and it's going to be I think a really cool moment for you. And you're going to go, you know what? I really do kick ass. I really do have something unique to contribute, and not only that, I can make some money off of this and provide for my family, my future, the whole 9 yards. So I see that coming. I love the Saturn first house transit. I don't know about you, Rob.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm studying cosmophysics. I'm getting into it. I'm doing a bit of research, and I enjoy studying astrology. So that's something that I'm doing alongside my studies as well. But I'm just taking my time. So, yeah. Yeah,
and you can do that, I think, with the Saturn first house transit, because you want to spend time. You want to get into time. You want to get into it. You don't want to skip over details. You know, I'll give just a quick story of a Saturn first house transit. My ex-wife went through Saturn moving through the first house in Virgo, which was all about health and all about, especially in her first house and ascendant appearance. And that Saturn first house transit in Virgo helped her lose 150 pounds. So, you know, anytime Saturn moves through that first house, it accentuates the identity, but it also, I mean, for me, you know, as we move through time, we become more of the first house, we become more of the ascendant. So it's not just the identity; it permeates through the entire body, the entire self. So this will be a great transit for you. Absolutely. I think the next 3 years are going to be very, very powerful, especially when Saturn gets up around 10, 11, 12 degrees, gets into that mutual reception with Mercury and Capricorn, and a lot of the information that you're taking in, you know, really permeates your entire biocircuit. So, anyway, I was just riffing there, Rob.
Did you look at the fact that she has Venus at 8 degrees Aquarius, which on December 14th, Saturn is going to
kind of square? Yeah, you know, and I think that that's okay, because for me that square is about.
I want to prepare her for.
But it's about reaffirming, you know, kind of what your personal mission and goals are, you know, in your own life versus some of the older patterns in a relationship, and it's fixed. So for me, that's really it's a big crossroads. Why don't you go ahead and take the time a little bit further and backfill that, Ra?
Yeah, I would advise her to make sure that she is very conservative with her expenditure, with her spending.
Yeah.
And because sudden things will arise that require your financial attention, and that is just by virtue of the fact that, you know, and Jupiter. That's by virtue of the fact that Venus is in Aquarius in the 4th place, right with the Moon. You know, so family issues may very well arise too. That bring some moral challenges to the table. And this will be around just, you know, the second week of December, because this is when Saturn forms a hard square to that, and it conjuncts Jupiter. So a lot of the things that Jupiter represents, like schooling, travel, your car, all right, or foreigners, dealing with foreigners or people of different ethnicity, all right, for that matter. You're going to run through some obstacles and delays with being able to find a relief from this, because that's what Jupiter is. And it will extend from a tendency to overspend or to spend where not needed. So it's good to be mindful of the fact that there can be some challenges, some necessities that arise by virtue of Saturn's conjunction to the natal Jupiter. You know, some necessities are going to arise, squaring Venus at the same time, like shortly thereafter. You know, it conjuncts Jupiter on December 5th. And then by the 14th, it conjuncts Jupiter on the 16th of November, pardon me. And then by December the 14th, it comes to your Venus degree. So that month period right there is good for you to be on top of your economic situation, stacking cheese, as opposed to spending it.
Okay. So when you say it conjuncts my Jupiter, is that where I'm supposed to be aware of my spending then, or around December the 14th?
Well, Jupiter represents a tendency to over-engage when it comes to disciplinary issues where discipline is needed. So if Saturn representing discipline, if you have a tendency to over-engage or to overindulge, and then some restriction would behoove you. Because if it's the sky telling you it's time to put a limit, a time to put it, and also if it describes, characteristics of demeanor that describe areas where you need to mature in life, then Saturn is showing you that it's time to confront those issues and resolve those issues as well. All right, now Jupiter is a lucky planet. It's the most beneficial, most fortunate planet. So, but we're not concerned about the things that are going to come good to you. I want to prepare you with those things that you're going to have to tackle with. So having a mind for right. So so it's not terrible. It's not a terrible thing. Nothing is terrible. Nothing is on you that ain't meant for you to go through in the first place. Okay. But to have a foreknowledge of the potential stresses and strains and obstacles, I don't deal with squares as pleasant issues, but I also, when I combine them with other squares, I use Magi quads like the Magi Society, Rob. And two squares is excellent. It's very good. But I don't ignore the tension that comes with it.
Yeah, no, the squares are opportunity, but not without some effort. We understand that.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes that opportunity manifests itself in areas dealing with those planets, and that's Saturn and Jupiter here.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think of it, also means that some delay or responsibility towards your schooling becomes tantamount, extremely tantamount, because of Scorpio's place. And I could imagine, other things that I would not get into over the air. You dig? I'm part of it. I can see things that I would say in the course of a private reading that I would not say right now. In other words, you have to really discipline yourself.
You gotta hold that energy in. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. She's Jupiter and Scorpio. She's a fun lover.
Yeah.
She loves fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a little bit more passionately than people with Jupiter and Scorpio. And she's very sensitive to other people's needs and things of this nature. But I'm just looking at it personally. She's adventurous, man, do or die type of adventure, and that's really.
She's also very transformational too with that Pluto Moon trine. She can take those experiences and take those events and transubstantiate them. Yeah, so she can get into deep water and she knows how to dive. That's the term that I'm looking at here.
But what I see with Mars, Saturn, and Pluto all in Libra, man, it's real deep. Yeah. That's real deep right there, Mama. You have very strict, stringent requirements for a relationship to work, and sometimes that undoes your relationships.
Yeah, it sure does. I'm learning that. I truly am. Yeah, it has.
Well, listen, thank you for calling in all the way from London town, and check back in, listen to the show, and take good care of yourself, all right?
Thank you both, and keep doing what you're doing. It's wonderful, and I appreciate you both. Thank you.
Okay. All right, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. So right now we are offline. We are we're non-streaming. Ra, I'm going to wrap this up because I am a working astrologer. I got charts of my own I got to do today.
Yeah, I got a reading at 6 o'clock today, man.
So let's take a break here. I really want to thank you for being on the show, and
I want to thank you for inviting me, man. You know, really.
Yeah. You're one of a kind. I respect your knowledge, your love, and your passion for astrology. And people can find you again, Cosmophyzix on Facebook. And why don't you just bust out your phone number again one more time? Let people find you that way too.
516-881-6992. You know.
All right, Ra, take care. I will see you over there on Facebook, and welcome, Scorpio.
Peace, man. Have a good one.
All right, brother. See you later. That was Ra the Cosmophysician. Let's give it up. And like I said, you can find, he's got the radio show here on Blog Talk on Sunday nights with Coach Khair, Noble Ampu, who's a really cool astrologer. I love his stuff. And a bunch of other folks that chime in and bring their knowledge and bring their wisdom. All right. You've been listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I will be back on Friday. And on Friday, I'll have Claire Kuhn, and we'll be talking about free energy. What is it? Who has it? Will we ever get it? And why we don't have it if we do already have it here with us. And I think I'll also have Kyla Flexer on from Kitka, and we'll be talking about the tradition of the labyrinth. And there's a series of labyrinth concerts and events taking place up and down the West Coast with Kitka, Ross Daly, and a bunch of other people. And we'll get into the sacred geometry of the labyrinth. Until then, use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step in what's possible. I want to thank everybody for calling in, by the way, and being a part of today's show. You're a big part of what we do here on Navigating the Astrological Matrix. Stepping it up in 2013, that is the dream. And I hope that's the dream for every single one of you. All right. Love you all. See you on Friday.
In the name I am that I am, Sanat Kumara, I call forth the light of the living word, beloved Elohim, beloved archangels, beloved mighty Choans of the rays and the lords of karma. I call for the action of beloved Pallas Athena, beloved goddess of liberty, beloved Nada, beloved Kuan Yin, beloved Portia, beloved great divine director, beloved all-seeing eye of God, Cyclopeia. Let God's will be done, let God's will be done, let God's will be done. I demand the action of the sacred fire in this hour. Descend, almighty cosmos, secret rays. I am the holding of the balance of Lord Gautama Buddha, beloved Sanat Kumara and the seven holy Kumaras. I call upon the sacred fire, I call upon the light of God that never fails. Beloved mighty, I am present, come forth in this hour of the victory. Come forth in this hour of the victory of the God flame. I demand the full power of beloved mighty, exceed me with us this night. Beloved Jesus, send to me, Lord, my Savior.